Firstly, thanks to Prof. Abdul Karim and all sahabat for coming to this webinar. Alright, as usual, we start this webinar with recite Al-Fatihah. Al-Fatihah. Okay. First of all, I want to introduce lah apa ni, Prof. Karim, yang handsome dan bergaya dan hebat ni. Okay, beliau adalah fellow kanan Uniten. Kita show apa ni, Uniten lantik beliau di Uniten sebagai fellow kanan Uniten. And then the main task for him adalah membantu membangunkan inisiatif digital learning in Uniten. Now kita go to digital, Prof. Sekarang semua main digital. Digital university sekarang kan popular, digital university. And he's a former professor of food technology, retired after almost 30 years with the USM. And the last post is a director of Center of Development Excellence. Okay, without further ado, saya serahkan pada Prof. Mungkin Prof boleh tambah sikit lah Prof punya apa ni tugas kat sini. And then Prof boleh teruskan dengan presentation. Okay, Prof.
Okay, terima kasih.
Alright.
Boleh dengar ya?
Boleh dengar.
Clear. Okay.
Boleh.
Sebelum saya mulakan, saya rasa saya kena buat setting something sebab ini saya jarang gunakan Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
So I have to do system settings sekejap.
Boleh. Boleh.
Sekejap ya. First time. So I have to quit and reopen. So I think I have to exit sekejap ya.
Boleh. Okay, untuk yang apa tu, untuk this webinar, if you have any question, you can ask using your mic or you can use a chat lah. So this is about the apa tu?
Okay, Dr. Zaman.
Okay,
boleh...
Prof. Okay, start. Okay.
Alright, okay. Sorry about that ya. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan selamat sejahtera to all fellow academics from Unit 10. Thank you, Dr. Zolman and TLC for giving me this opportunity to share a topic on today. The topic is about teaching competency framework for teaching excellence. And I think for the rest of the year, I'll be sharing regularly with all of you, almost like every month, once or twice, on the topic of current interest to all of us here, especially in the context of teaching and learning, in particular on online learning or digital learning. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay, Dr. Zolman, please confirm you can see my PowerPoint.
Boleh. Memang cantik.
Okay.
Memang handsome.
Okay, this is topic, the first topic that for my regular sharing with Unit 10 this year, starting from I think this is very important, looking at the big picture first. So this is on competency framework for teaching excellence. And at the end of this presentation, I will share the link for the participants to download, so you can have access to all the slides that I'm going to share this morning. All right, so competency framework for teaching excellence. So there are two parts here. One was actually the main thing of my sharing this morning is to share with you on the competency framework, the what and the why of competency framework. And then second part, I'm going to discuss about how this teaching framework or competency framework for teaching can help us, can help the educators or the academics at Unit 10 to strive for teaching excellence and to achieve teaching excellence. I think moving forward, especially in the world, in the VUCA world, so-called, the world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and also ambiguous. There are so many challenges ahead of us. Technology, the AI, everything is coming to us at a very fast speed. So educators now has to be prepared, has to be very agile, and we have to acquire new skill almost, constantly. So this is what basically, in the essence, what competency framework for teaching excellence is about. So basically, these are the things that I'm going to touch on. Of course, when we talk about competency framework, we need to understand that some of the terminologies: competence, competency, and competency framework. So these are in a nutshell, some of the essential terminologies that we need to understand. What is the difference between competence and competency, for example, and how does this competency form a more structured so-called competency framework? And the term competency framework itself, what does it mean? And why we need to know and understand and appreciate the importance of having a proper framework, competency framework, in relation to teaching, and how does it help for us, for Unit 10 people, for Unit 10 academic, to achieve teaching excellence. And what does teaching excellence means? How do we define teaching excellence itself? Okay. And when we have a teaching competency framework, we can we will have we will identify and define what are the competencies with respect to teaching competencies, and how do we describe each competency, and what are the levels. We can define the level of proficiency or the performance criteria. So from the performance criteria, we can use this to set so-called professional standard. And these are, once we have a professional standard, this can be used for many purposes. And everyone knows now, what does it take to become professional educators, excellence educators of Unit 10, because we have defined the standard very clearly. Currently, I don't know, maybe it's there, but whether it has been articulated clearly to staff is something that we need to look at. And finally, teaching excellence and student success in the context of this competency framework, how does it relate to each other? So in the next presentation, I hope maybe I can expand on this to talk about professionalism in teaching based on the framework that we have set up. So these are the agenda that I'm going to share with you. I hope you all can stay on until the end, but I know many of you have lectures, classes, so feel free to leave if you have something to do, because this session is recorded, so you can always come back to listen to the rest of this. All right, so how many of you are aware or have watched this program, The Apprentice? The Apprentice. Yeah? So if you have watched this program, you probably are familiar how the program is like, and the main anchor person in this program is Donald Trump, who later on became the president of United States of America. Okay, where's the chat box? Yeah? I'm looking for a chat box. I'm not very familiar with Microsoft Teams.
Dekat atas bro, kat bahagian atas.
Kat bahagian atas.
Dekat atas. Dekat people, sebelah people tu.
I tak nampak because yeah.
Dr. Zulman,
Yeah.
tolong settingkan Prof Karim sebagai inilah controller sekali. Add dia. Okay?
Macam mana nak buat tu? Dr. Jena boleh tolong tak?
Okay, tak apa.
Dr. Jena boleh tolong?
I don't see the chat box. Anyway, it's okay. Because I thought I can interact with all of you through the chat box. Yeah. It's okay. I will carry on first. So yeah, I cannot see the chat box, so I don't know what's your response. My question is whether you have watched this program, The Apprentice. I believe many of you, because this program was screened many years ago. But for those who have watched this program, I just want to ask this question: what is the catchphrase, very popular catchphrase from this program? Something that everyone remembers about this program, The Apprentice. Cannot see the chat box. Anyway,
You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. She's like Dr. Jahana. Yeah, you are fired. You are fired. You are fired. Okay, so I remember this very clearly, and this is one of the highlight of the program. Towards the end, when all the apprentices sit down together after they have completed the assignment given to them, whether individually or in group, usually in groups. Then those who didn't perform well, he or she will be fired. So when someone is fired, there must be reasons for it. Okay, so Donald Trump here, in this case, he's the boss. So he has some so-called standards, so-called expectation or standards. So if the person does not meet the standard or even exceeded the standard or the expectation, then that person was, or did not perform. So that person perhaps doesn't fit in his organization or in the organization or in the institution. So in other words, the person is incompetent because the person did not reach the set or the required standard. So you are competent, you are fired. So basically, this is what, in a nutshell, this is the thing that I'm going to talk about, competency. And some of you probably have been teaching at Unit 10 for more than 20 years, 25 years, 10 years, 5 years, and some of you probably just joined, very fresh, very green. And it's very important for seasoned educators as well as for new educators or new academics in any institution, especially higher learning institution, to really understand about competency. Because if we don't really think about competency, it means that we don't really think whether we have done our best for the institution. And sometimes we feel that we are doing our best, but we do not have means to know that we have achieved the best. Whether we are underperform or we are overperform. Overperform is good, but if we are underperform, then perhaps we need to do something. There's a gap that we need to fulfill. So we need to understand first what is competency and what are the competencies expected of us by Uniten, by the institution. And that's, in the first place, there must be a set of competencies well defined, well articulated, and well communicated to all the staff, so that everyone knows what is the expectation for them to achieve. Now, let me share this quote. I love quotes, yeah, because in the quotes,
Prof,
if you read, yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, kalau
Yeah.
Prof, sekarang Prof tak share the screen. Kami tak nampak slide.
Oh, tak habaq tadi.
Kod lah sengaja ke?
Ya ke? Allah Akbar.
Tadi Prof share
Aduh.
tapi lepas tu unshare. I think because of the chat. And yet
Yeah.
belum share lagi lah.
Okay, let me share. Tak apa. Ini semua hiccup. Okay, now can see you.
Alhamdulillah nampak Prof. Alhamdulillah. Terima kasih Prof.
Okay. Sorry, because I'm not very familiar with Microsoft Teams, so I have to maybe not very small. So okay, this is basically what I mentioned just now. The agenda that I'm going to share about competency, what's competency framework, and so on. Okay, and yeah, just now I mentioned about the program, the apprentice, and the most popular catchphrase from this program is "You are fired." So you are fired because you are incompetent. You did not reach the standards that I set or the institution has set for you. And this bring us to discuss about, before we discuss about the competency framework, we need to really understand what is competency. What does it mean by competency? And yeah, the quotes. So I love quotes because when you read the quotes and you really think about it, we can reflect on it, and there's something maybe we can learn from it and perhaps practice it to improve ourselves. And this quote is very famous. This was attributed to Albert Einstein. Why I put a question mark there? Because some people say that it's not really Albert Einstein that said this one. Anyway, what's important is the quote. Let's read this together. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we keep doing the same thing in the context of teaching every semester, every year, every academic session, year in, year out, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years until we retire. And we expect different results. We expect students perform better. We expect students get the best learning experience while we are doing the same thing over and over again. It doesn't work that way. That's what, according to Albert Einstein, definition of insanity is. How do we expect different results if we keep doing the same thing again and again? Okay, and in relation to that, I take this quote from one of the teachers, Don Wettrick here. He said this: you should constantly change and adapt with your students. You can teach 20 years, but please don't teach 1 year 20 times. Let's ponder on this quote. Very powerful words here. You can teach 20 years, but please don't teach 1 year 20 times. What does it mean? It means that we keep doing the same thing, teaching the same way again and again for 20 years, 30 years. when, depending on how long you spend your time working at the institution. So in other words, when we look at ourselves and the things that we do, if we keep doing the same thing and we never bother to learn new things, acquire new knowledge, new skill, or introduce new innovation in our classroom. So in other words, personally and professionally, we don't grow. We never grow. We never grow. If you imagine that we have our own bubble, and that bubble we never stretch. We never stretch beyond our so-called the norms, our own norms and our own so-called comfort zone, so to speak. And the reason why, because I look at academia as a journey. So it's all about growth. It's all about growth. If you choose not to grow, meaning that you are content with doing the same thing again and again, well, it's a choice, of course. But if you want to grow from being a novice academic in the institution in the first 5 years, and then you grow, you learn, you acquire new knowledge, new skill, attend all the program organized by TLC and program organized by other universities. Nowadays, many universities open their program through webinar and so on online to everyone. I hope Uniten can do that as well. So if you put yourself, position yourself in such a way that you want to acquire as much knowledge as possible, learn as many skills, new skill as possible, because you want to grow and become better to the extent that, 5 to 10 years, you can become professional. But how do you know you become professional? This is where the competencies framework comes in. This is where the professional standards come in, because you can measure, you can look at what are the attributes, what kind of competencies and what level of competencies for you to reach this level from novice to professional. So you are growing. And ultimately, you want to reach a level what we call a scholar. And this is a level where people would recognize you as a scholar. And this is the level or the stage where perhaps, you will be recognized, you can apply the National Academic Award or Anugerah Academic Negara at this level. And perhaps this is probably 10 years, more than 10 years, okay, 10 to 15 years, 20 years. So remember, the journey in academia is all about growth. And we should put ourselves in such a way to go through professional development program organized by TLC so that you can continue to grow and become better and better. So when we look at professional development, meaning that we want to develop ourselves not only personally, but also professionally in our profession as an academic. So from novice to professional, and you look, if you look at on the Y here, competency, we are talking about developing our competency. Okay, we will define what are the competencies. So we want to develop from the so-called stage 1 here, exploring. Here is actually the first 5 years where you're still finding the footing, still developing yourself, staying learning, from the peers, from the mentors, and so on. And the next stage is actually professional. Okay, I haven't corrected this program, this diagram. The professional should be here. So this is a second stage where you start to adopt. You start to adopt all the best practices and adapt in your classroom. So you adopt, you adapt, and adapt. ADEPT. Yeah, become good at it. Yeah, adopt, adapt, ADAPT, then adapt, ADEPT. So adapt means you become good, you become excellent in doing things, whatever methods, techniques that you want to use in the classroom. And finally, in stage 3, you become a scholar. So this is where you become, you are leading, you are mentoring, you are helping others to develop themselves also. Not only develop yourself, but at this stage 3, you are developing others as well. So if we look at this diagram and we picture ourselves, and later on you will see the competency framework, and I hope you can now do some so-called self-assessment and reflection as to where you are now. In terms of years, if you have been here for, let's say, more than 10 years, you should be probably at stage 2 or stage 3. But if you feel that you are, there's still a lot more that you need to do based on the competency framework that I will share shortly, then meaning that there's a lot of gaps. But it's okay if you know and aware and realize that you have gaps to fulfill, then you can start, doing and learning new things and so on. But if someone is not even realize what they are lacking or what is a gap, then they will never grow beyond, the current level. And many people actually got stuck. Many people got stuck, and yet they don't understand why I'm not progressing in my career. Why I'm not like, my colleague who joined at the same time, but now they are, professors and so on, and yet I'm still here. They get stuck and they don't understand, and they don't know even why they are still at this level. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now let's look at competency framework, starting from understand what is competency. So if you search the literature, Google, or even now ask ChatGPT, there are many ways of there are many definition, different variation of the definition of competency, but it's one of it. So competency is a specific set of knowledge, skills, abilities, knowledge, skill, abilities, and behaviors. Will reflected also in the behaviors required for effective performance. And what is effective performance? We will define in a given role or profession. In our context, as an academic, as a lecturer. So we have the knowledge, so we are subject matter expert, PhD in something. So we have that knowledge, the core knowledge. And we're supposed to be, to have the mastery of the knowledge so that we can transfer that knowledge. We can teach that knowledge to the students. And the skill to deliver the content, for example, the skill to do things that is expected of us, prepare the teaching plan, prepare the learning, the lesson design, prepare the assessment, prepare the test, prepare the exam questions, and so on. Those are the basically so-called the functional skill related to our function, which should be spelled out in the job description or JD. So the abilities, and behaviors required for effective performance. So basically, in a nutshell, that is competency. So competencies are often defined in observable and measurable terms. Okay, it can be measured, it can be observed, and are designed to describe what individuals need to be able to do to perform their job effectively. So without competency framework, there's no document properly in the form of documented document that really tell everyone whether, if you are a lecturer, if you are a technical person, if you are doing administration and so on, what exactly you are supposed to do and what level of proficiency that you should achieve after a certain time. Then there is no way you can measure, and there's the process would be very subjective into when, for the career progress, promotion, incentive, recognition, and so on, because there is nothing to compare with or to measure with. There's no baseline. Okay, so you will find that in the literature there's a difference between subtle difference between competence and competency, and this sometimes these words, these terminologies used interchangeably. So competence actually refers to the ability to perform a specific task or function. It is often used to describe a level of proficiency or mastery in a particular skill or area of expertise. So example, the ability to design and deliver effective lesson. So meaning that if you are competent, you are able to design and deliver effective lesson, using the proper methods, proper technique, and so on. So you are competent, you are able to perform. Okay, but of course there will be a different level of ability also that we can define, maybe basic, intermediate, advanced, or basic, experts, and so on. Whereas competency, on the other hand, is a broader term encompassing a range of abilities, knowledge, and skill required for effective performance in a given job or profession. Competency may include both technical skill and soft skills such as communication, collaboration, and problem solving. Example, a broader range of skill and knowledge related to teaching, such as understanding the learning needs of diverse students, population, fostering a positive classroom climate, and so on. So competency is broader, is more general, meaning that if you are a lecturer, so you are competent to do certain tasks that is very specific for you to be able to function as a lecturer, to teach. But as a lecturer at Uni10, at a university, you are expected to do much more than that. You have to do consultation, you have to do writing, publication, you have to do research, you have to supervise students, undergraduate and postgraduate students, you have to do community service, you have to, so it's beyond the classroom. So this is what we call competency, which describe a more holistic kind of attributes of an academic. Whereas competence focus more on your ability to perform what matters most for you to do your things in the classroom. Okay, so I hope these are quite clear. If you have any questions, please interject at any time. Okay, you can unmute the microphone. Somehow I cannot see the chat, so maybe Dr. Zulman can help me if the question.
Boleh.
Okay. Now, what are components of competency? So later on, shortly, we will define what are the competencies in our competency framework for teaching excellence. But for each competency, these are the components, the 3 components. Okay, for any competency framework, there are 3 components. One is skills, which describe the capabilities acquired through practice and also reflected in the behavior. Then knowledge. Basically, knowledge we take for granted, assume we hire someone as a lecturer at Unit 10. So they have the required criteria in terms of PhD, whatever qualification and so on, experience and so on. So knowledge is acquired, understanding acquired through learning. Okay, and the observable demonstration of some competency, knowledge, skill, and personal attributes attributed to excellence performance. Then, of course, not to forget attitudes. These we are talking about the personal attributes, the personality, because this is very important. It involves the interpersonal skill, how the person interact with the students, communicate with the students, with the peers, with the administrators, and so on, so that this person can be part of the academic community at the institution. We don't want the person to just be sitting in the room and just doing his things or her things, and basically not contributing more than that to the institution. Yeah. So attitude also describe the inherent characteristic which are brought to the job. So the attitudes, values, yeah, ethics, and so on. Okay, so these are the three main components of competency.
Prof, boleh saya tanya soalan?
Yeah, sure.
Saya Mahlinda Yu dari Koba. Muazzam Prof. Saya tertarik dengan definition kompetensi tadi. Ada perkataan efektif dan effectively. Macam mana kita define dan measure efektif tu, Prof?
Okay, good question, Dr. Mahlinda. Can I defer the answer because after this, I will show the complete competency framework.
Boleh.
And the performance criteria which describe or which define the effective performance. So we do have the criteria to define effective performance. Yeah.
Baik, Prof. Terima kasih.
Thank you for the questions. That's very good one also. I will come to that. Yeah. Now, types of competency for human resource or HR people. For them, competency framework is their bread and butter lah. Yeah. So sometimes they categorize the competency into core competency and functional competency. I think all of us also, although we are not HR people, we should at least know basic of the language of human resource, yeah, or talent management. So core competency is defined as foundational skill required for success in a role or profession, whereas functional competency are specific skill. The keyword are specific skill required to perform tasks or responsibilities within a role or functions. And this relate back to the competence. So if you are a lecturer, if you are a teacher, what are the specific skill that you must have in order for you to be able to teach, to give lecture, to prepare your lecture, to prepare your lesson design, lesson plan, to prepare everything that, assessment and so on, to prepare question and so on. So these are the specific skill which is specific for that particular job. If you are, let's say, IT officer, what is a specific skill required? Whereas core competency are foundational skill required for success in a role or profession. As a lecturer, as I mentioned earlier, not only you are able to teach, not only you are, you can do whatever necessary to function as a teacher, as a lecturer, but you are part of a bigger institution or organization. You have to do a lot of other things as well. And those are the so-called core competency. You can do consultation, you can write for publication, you can help the community and so on. So this is what we call core competency. Core competency, yeah, transferable or not? Yes, it's often transferable across roles and profession, whereas functional competency is not transferable because the person has to have that particular specific competency, okay, specific to particular role or function. So for example, if you want to teach an engineering subject, you must have a degree or background in engineering. Otherwise, you are not able to teach thermodynamic, for example. Yeah. So it's not really transferable easily. An example of core competency, for example, communication skill, classroom management, subject matter expertise, whereas functional competency, conducting assessment, providing individual and group counseling, developing student support plans, and so on. Okay, But don't worry so much about these categories. If you forget about it, and it's okay. It's not really critical. Okay. Now, let's look at. Now we understand what does it mean by competence? What does it mean by competency framework? And competency, core competency, functional competency, and so on. So now let's look at competency framework, the bigger one. Okay. So competency framework can be defined as a structured set of skills. Structured. The keyword here is structured. Set of skills. So it's a skill set. Okay. A skill set, knowledge and abilities required for a particular job or profession. So when we say set of skill, there are more than one, and they are structured in such a way, okay, in a framework. So in the context of teaching, the competency framework outlines the essential skill, the must-have skill, the skill that matters, okay, and knowledge that educators need to possess to be effective in their role. Okay, so just digest this for a moment. What is competency framework? I repeat, it's a structured set of skill set. More common words that we use is skill set, knowledge, and abilities. Okay. So it here means the framework typically includes a set of competencies that describe the specific behaviors. So we will describe, okay, if the competency is, let's say, about scholarly teaching. So you are able to do what? And how that reflect in the way you do things, the behaviors, your ability. So the abilities is measured maybe, how good you are. So you can do just the basic thing, or you can do the more advanced thing, more innovative, more creative, and so on. So there are different levels, at least 3 levels that we define in our framework. And the knowledge required for educators to excel in their work. So Dr. Malinda punya, Dr. Malinda you tadi punya soalan tadi tu, how do we know that we have excelled? We have reached that level of excellence. So because it is called competency framework for teaching excellence, right? How do we know? So there must be some way to measure. Okay. The competency framework provides a comprehensive description of the different aspects of a job or profession, allowing individuals to assess their current competencies and identify areas where they need to improve. So this is what I mentioned earlier. So far, have you or did you really know, or do you really know what are the different competencies that you must have? And do you really know where you are now? After 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whether you have reached the level of excellence or you are just somewhere. Okay, so this is where allowing individuals to assess their current competencies and identify areas where they need to improve. From my observation, I'm talking about Anugerah Akademik Negara here. So there always a question asked to me, how do I know whether I am now eligible to apply for Anugerah Akademik Negara? How do I know? So there's a very common question asked by people. So actually you should know. If we have this framework and it spell out exactly the competencies and the level of competencies so that you can assess, do the self-assessment where you are in the whole framework. Okay. And then you will see, oh, okay, this is a gap, and I need to I need to learn more about assessment. I need to learn more about scholarly teaching. I need to understand more about adult learning principles. I need to understand more about lesson design. I need to learn more about how to design self-instructional material. I need to learn more about how to use, let's say, Garnier 9 events of instruction to design my lesson plan, 1 hour lesson, and so on. So much. Sometimes we don't realize that we do not have that competencies. So if we look at teaching competency framework, and we know what it takes to reach the level of excellence, then one day we will reach that level, the so-called excellence or teaching excellence as defined by the framework. And basically, what does it mean by teaching excellence? Is the attainment or the achievement of a high level of proficiency in the knowledge, skill, abilities, and behaviors required for effective teaching. High level of proficiency will be defined in the performance criteria. The 3 levels. Okay, so if you reach the highest level or even the second level, then we will say that, okay, you have reached the reasonably high level of proficiency. And this includes technical or functional competencies or the core competencies, such as subject matter expertise, instructional design, behavioral competencies such as communication, collaboration, and cultural competency as well. Okay. So in other words, when we put it together in a teaching in the competency framework, we will define the competence. Remember, the skill and the knowledge, the scholarly teaching, and so on. Then the conduct, the behavior, how it reflects on the behavior, how you, in terms of the personality, in terms of your communication, in terms of how you treat the students, how you communicate with the students, how you interact, how do you help them, how do you respond, how do you give feedback, and so on. So effective and proper relationship, demonstrate and practice so-called the values, carry oneself in a respectable manner, communication. So these are all so-called the conduct or so-called the attitude. Remember the three categories of the competency: the knowledge, skill, and attitudes. And then the performance. And this is where we measure the effectiveness or the level of excellence. Okay, and which we define in the framework. So why is it very important for everyone, all the lecturers, all the academics, to understand the importance of competency framework? Okay, for those who are attending now, I think this is a very good opportunity for you to really, if you have not heard about or learned about competency framework, especially in the context of teaching. I'm talking just about teaching. Research is another, actually we need another competency for research as well. Okay, but let's talk about teaching first. And I think this is a starting point, very, very important, very critical. I hope those who are not able to attend can listen to this recording, because I really want the message to be conveyed to everyone, for Unit 10 to really go to the new height, a new level. We need this, everyone to understand this and to practice. So how do we use teaching this competency framework? It can be used to guide professional development. This is what DLC and TLCs are doing. Professional development program, or some people call it training program. Actually there is a difference between, a subtle difference between training and professional development. I prefer to use professional development because it is broader and serve more purposes compared to just training. Okay, so TLC has prepared a very good program this year. I believe DLC as well, and everyone should take the opportunity, make a point, find time to attend, because it is where you can start to grow. Remember about growth, okay? It's a journey of growth. become better, and you can actually equip yourself with all the competencies needed. It can be used for the framework can be used, to measure, the consistency and accountability to improve student outcome. That's the bottom line, actually, because if you are competent, then you can give the best learning experience for the student, and therefore improve the student's outcome, the student's experience as well. Imagine 4 years at Unit 10, if they receive the best learning experience, when they go out, words of mouth, they will become the ambassador for Unit 10. And it can be used for performance evaluation, for recruitment processes. If Unit 10 want to hire a new lecturer, what are the attributes? What are the criteria? And how do you measure that? How do you ensure that the person has these attributes, has these competencies before we hire them? Okay. So why do we need a competency framework for professional development? So that when TLC and the LC design the training program now, or the professional development program now, they will be guided by the competency framework. So educators can benefit from competency framework as it provides a clear understanding of the required skill and knowledge for effective performance in their roles. This guidance can facilitate their professional development and assist in developing areas for improvement. So when you look at competencies, the list of competencies later on, you will realize, oh, okay, all these years I have attended the DLC and TLC program, but I focus mainly more on, say, this competency, but not much on other competencies. So maybe now it's time for me to learn other things as well, so that I have all the competencies. I become more holistic, more capable academic. Okay, so that's if you don't have this list of competency, then you will not be able to tell where you are lacking, where is the gap. Consistency and accountability. A competency framework ensures that educators across an organization or institution have a shared understanding of what it means to be an effective educator. If you don't have the framework, then we don't really know whether I'm effective, whether I'm excellent, whether I can, or where I am lacking, where I need to learn more. So this can help to promote consistency and teaching practices. So we have the baseline, we have a common baseline, and make it easier to hold educators accountable for their performance. Okay, and improve student outcome, as I mentioned earlier. When educators possess the skill and knowledge outlined in the competency framework, they are better equipped to meet the needs of their students. This can lead to improved student outcomes, such as higher test scores and better academic performance. And most importantly, they can tell other people, their parents, their friends, and so on, come to Unit 10 because I have experienced the best 4 years of my life as a student at Unit 10. Then we won't have the problem of getting students to come to Unit 10. Okay. Performance evaluation. The competency framework for the administrator in this case can use competency framework for performance evaluation. The yearly appraisal, the annual appraisal, or maybe for promotion as well, because administrators can use a competency framework to establish performance expectations, evaluate teaching effectiveness, facilitate professional development, and assess the effectiveness of instructional leadership. Whether this person can be considered as a dean, as a deputy deans, as a head of departments, as the directors, as a deputy vice chancellors, or even as a vice chancellors, because we can see from their performance based on the framework. In this case, in terms of teaching only lah. Okay. Then finally, recruitment process. Administrators can utilize a competency framework for multiple purposes, such as developing job description, assessing candidate qualification, conducting interviews, and developing onboarding and training plans. Professional standard. From the competency framework, we have a performance criteria, and we can take the performance criteria to form a professional standard. And this is the standard that everyone has to kind of everyone has to achieve the standard. Okay, so once we have the professional standard, we can use for quality assurance. The defining professional standard for educators help to ensure that all educators have the necessary skill and knowledge to effectively perform their roles. This can help to improve the overall quality of education and ensure that students receive a consistent level of instruction. So when the auditors come for SWA accreditation or for audits, yeah, Myra and so on. Myra maybe not so much because Myra more on research, yeah? But for, let's say, ranking and so on. So when the auditors ask, do you have a competency framework for teaching? Now we can show them, but not only show them, we can tell them all our training program, our professional development program are mapped into our competency framework, and all our staff, academic staff, are aware and understand about the competency framework and what are the competencies that they must have and what are the standards they must achieve in terms of the professional standard. Then mantap lah, baru mantap ya. In terms of professionalism, a professional standard for educators helps to define what it means to be a professional in the field of education. And I hope I can expand and elaborate on this in the next sharing when we talk about professionalism in teaching and as educators. And this can help to promote a culture of professionalism. We want to create a culture of professionalism at Unit 10. We want to feel that, we want to see and feel that there is such culture of professionalism. Very vibrant culture of professionalism. Everyone at Unit 10. But here I'm talking about academics, the lecturers. And ensure that educators are held to a high standard of conduct. And finally, about the recruitment and retention, defining professional standard. Yes, Dr. Zaman.
Okay, dah 1 jam kita tanya soalan sikit. Siapa ada, if you have any question, you can ask now.
Yeah. Feel free to ask questions.
Saya nak tanya soalan, bro.
Ya, silakan.
Competency framework ni is the new thing, benda yang baru ataupun benda ni dah lama?
Competency framework is not new thing, especially for HR, human resource people. Okay, please allow me to... Sekejap ya, Dr. Zaman ya.
Okay. Okay, sahabat-sahabat semua, kalau ada soalan, you boleh tulis dalam chat, or you can ask using the mic lah. So sekarang ni boleh renggang, goyang-goyangkan badan. Okay. Untuk regangan sikit lah. Supaya kita akan lebih fresh. Boleh tarik nafas. Tahan, lepaskan. Tarik nafas. Tahan, lepaskan. Tarik nafas. Tahan, lepaskan. Okey, Prof, sambung.
Okey,
minta maaf
sebab ada call yang urgent tadi tu. Saya minta maaf ya. Okay, competency framework ni is not new thing. For HR people, they use this competency framework for the purpose of promotion and so on lah. Tapi competency framework for teaching or for specific competency, for example research and so on, pada peringkat university is not something common. But now I think in Malaysia or in Malaysian universities, they are talking about CBTM, competency-based talent management and so on. So it is coming now to universities in Malaysia. But Unit 10, I think, if we really adopt this competency framework, it will be among the first university in Malaysia that really have proper framework, competency framework for teaching. So I think this is a very good thing for Unit 10. Boleh Dr. Zulman?
Okay, faham. So maknanya kalau kita ada competency framework ni is easy to manage lah, dan kita akan nampak lebih mudah lah nak implement. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. This is actually a strategic way of developing talents or developing people. In this case, lecturers or academics at the institution, because now we have a systematic way of looking at what kind of competencies that everyone should have to function, not only to function well as a lecturer, as an academic, but to perform beyond the standard that we have set. So from the competency framework, now we can create a so-called professional standard, so everyone is clear what are the standards that I must achieve and strive for to reach the highest level of being an academic at Unit 10. Yeah.
Okay, faham.
Okay. Okay. Ada soalan lagi at this point? Okay, kalau tak ada saya proceed dulu, because later on when you look at the competency framework as a whole, maybe you will have more questions lah, yeah. And I still have to address question by Dr. Malindayu tadi. Malindayu. Okay. Okay.
One
now,
aja, Prof, belum doktor.
Okay, tak apa, insyaAllah. Yeah.
Amin.
InsyaAllah. Okay. Very briefly, because you don't really have to know how we set up the competency framework, tapi just for as a general information, yeah, the process. What is the process for us to come up with competency framework? Of course, in this case, DLC, TLC, you know, we work together. We identify, we clarify what is the vision and mission of the university, and then we identify what are the essential competency, because we can have many competencies, but for Unit 10 academics or lecturers, we identify set of skill and knowledge and attitudes and values that we want to have, so that we can we can say that this what Unit 10 is. Okay, competency identification. To identify the competency, then we need to do a few things: analyze work, role and process, gather data through behavior, event, and so on. So it's not easy actually. It's a long process. Actually, it has to be done collectively with a lot of people at the institution. Then finally, we identify the set of competency, maybe 5 or 6. And then we generate the so-called competency model or the framework. And then maybe we consult with experts, external experts, get their views, their opinions, their feedback. Then we validate, we refine further, and finally, after approval by the top management, we can implement. So where are we now in terms of our competency framework? I think we are here, generate competency model, and this is what I'm going to share with you. Still work in progress, yeah, Dr. Zuman, yeah? Still work in progress, but I think TLC basically has kind of approved that, and maybe we are waiting also. We are waiting for feedback also from some external expert, so that we can refine based on their feedback, and hopefully we can start to implement. But we don't have to wait until it's approved, and so we can start now to implement starting from now until moving forward. Okay. Now, when we look at competency framework, these are the components. So the yellow one is the competency. Okay, the competency that we have identified and agreed. Okay, then the green one, we provide the description of the competency, the definition and the description. So for example, one of the competencies is scholarly teaching. So we describe and we define what does it mean by scholarly teaching. Then we have competency level. Okay, the competency level, and this is where we define the performance criteria. So that now to answer Puan Malindayu's question tadi, this is where we can look at where we are now at the level. Are we at level 1, level 2? We will describe in detail what is level 1, what is level 2, and so on. So from this, everyone can do self-assessment by looking at the description and for each competency level, where they are. And from there, they can see what is lacking, what is the gap, and that can help them to determine from the TLC program what program that they want to attend and learn more. Okay. And once the person has acquired that competency and they practice and they apply, it should be reflected now in the form of the behavior. So what are the behavior indicators? So we need these indicators so that we should be able to tell that this person has reached that level of competency, level 3, level 4, or whatever, because that person has demonstrated this behavior. Okay. So on this slide, ada soalan tak? Do you have any question on this slide? Because when you look at the competency level now, competency framework, you will see all these elements. Competency description, competency level or proficiency, and the behavioral indicators. Both competency level and behavioral indicators will define the performance criteria and the standard. Okay. Okay, if that is soalan, then I'll proceed. This is the example. Remember the yellow color just now? Yeah.
Sorry, the dictionary just now, is it meant for self-evaluation or someone else will fill it for us?
Both. Or you can use them for self-evaluation, where you look at the so-called competency dictionary tadi. This is, for example, let's say for problem solving, this is competency. And this is the description. The green one is the description of what is problem solving. And the level 1, awareness, level 2, basic, level 3, intermediate, level 4, advanced, level 5, expert. What is level 1? Awareness. This is the description. Applies the competency and so on. What is level 5? Expert. Applies and so on. And then the blue one is further detailed description, what is level 1, level 2, and so on. So anyone can now look at this competency, particular competency, and look at the description, and they can do self-assessment. They should know whether they are on level 1, level 2, and so on. And for the administrators, we can take this one and create so-called performance criteria, which is the level 1, level 2, and so on, and create a professional standard, meaning that the standard, let's say, if you are at the level yang kita panggil scholar level tadi tu, yang highest level, you should be at level 4 or level 5 at least. Professional level, the third level, maybe level 2 or maybe level 3. Then the so-called novice study, maybe level 1 and level 2. Remember, novice, professional, and scholar. Okay, so it's up to the administrators now to take from this competency framework to define the professional standard. Once the professional standard has been spelled out very clearly, then it is clear to everyone now without any doubt or any confusion or what. Yeah. Okay. Before that, I just I will share my screen. Screen one. Okay. Yeah. Betul Zaman, boleh nampak tak ni? My screen, I share my not PowerPoint, but
Boleh.
yeah. So this is example of professional standard. This is not our own because we have not actually come up with our professional standard yet. So this example of professional standard for teachers and trainers from one of the institution. So in the professional standard, we have professional values and attributes. So these are definition, details. We have professional knowledge and understanding. So these are the details. And we have the professional skill. And these are the details. Unit 10 should have something like this. So now it's very easy to do. We can just take from the competency framework, from the performance criteria, and we can write it in this form. And now we make it as a document that everyone, all the lecturers, all the academics should have as a reference, so that they can do the self-assessment for their own achievement or attainment of the standards. Okay. Okay. I just continue with the slides. Few more. Okay, this I'm sharing my slide now. Dr. Zulman, boleh nampak?
Boleh.
Boleh ya. Because I need to confirm. Takut nanti jadi macam tadi. Okay. Okay. We talk about competency framework. Jadi adakah maknanya selama ni unit 10? Ada ya. According to TLC, Dr. Zulman, from what I understand, you base your program, training program or professional development program based on TPAC. Based on TPAC. TPAC is good. Yeah, it's good. So I assume everyone here knows about TPAC. I assume, I have to take for granted now, so I don't have to explain. But the thing about TPAC, the limitation of TPAC is basically focused more on, let me ask, is it focused more on the core competency or functional competency? Tak dapat tengok chat lah. Tak tahu kenapa dapat tengok chat. Mungkin someone can unmute the microphone maybe. I punya video on tak apa ni Dr. Zaman?
Apa tu audio on dengar. Ni apa tu magazine beritahu functional.
Okay, functional. TPAC is functional.
Dr. Nariza kata functional.
Okay, good, excellent. Yeah, it's more focused on functional. So our so-called new framework, actually, TPAC plus lah, TPAC plus, right? So it covers also the core and functional competency. So don't worry, TPAC is still relevant, especially on the functional. So TPAC, if you understand TPAC, that's very good. But now we have more, so that we can call it TPAC plus lah, basically. And this is just example very quickly, some of the competency framework. If you're interested, you can download competency framework for teachers. This one freely available in the form of PDF. This is another framework. So there are so many framework out there, especially for teachers. So I'm not going to explain, but as you can see here in this example, the different way of constructing the framework. For example, they have three, they defined by area 1, area 2, area 3, then they have competency 1, competency 2, competency 3, and description. Okay. This one, another one for teachers, Southeast Asia Teachers Competency Framework. But now, Unit 10's competency framework for teaching excellence. Okay. So TLC and me, we work together to come up with this competency framework. And to all the participants here, these are the framework. So now I'm revealing so-called Unit 10's competency framework for teaching excellence. But I think this one need to be endorsed by the top management, I believe. Okay, but anyway, let's look at this one. The first one is so-called scholarly teaching. Second one is students LX, students learning experience. Okay, very, very important. The third one is curriculum design and management. The fourth one is professionalism and ethics. Fifth one is scholarship. The word scholarship is not that, it's not about money, it's that scholarship money, but the scholarship in terms of the being a scholar, a scholarship in terms of kesarjanaan, keilmuan, okay, scholarship and academic leadership. Academic leadership in the context of instructional leadership as well. Okay, so what is scholarly teaching? So the description of this competency is committed to using a teaching approach informed by sound pedagogical principle and theories, research and evidence-based practices in education. A lot of people, a lot of
Bro, ada soalan bro.
yes.
Daripada Dr. Chua. Dia kata, hi Prof, thanks for sharing. Just want to get your opinion about the professional standard framework by Higher Education Academic. Is it relevant and applicable to us?
Yes, we need to have one. We should have one. We must have one because professional standards are the standards that define our professionalism. So when we have the standard, we know where we are in terms of how we perform as an academic, in terms of teaching in this case, in terms of teaching, how good we are. Are we doing, are we practicing the best practices? Or are we just doing things day in, day out without understanding exactly how to deal with adult learners? What are the adult learning theories that I should know so that I can prepare and, apply proper strategy in my lesson plan, in my lesson design, and so on. So that is defined in the standard. And this standard is related to the framework. So for example, we define one of the competencies. We have six competencies here in the framework. The first one is scholarly teaching. And this will become one of the standards in our professional standard. And we have the levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay, so yes, something that we must have. Okay, to answer the question, Dr. Chua's question. So scholarly teaching, the term scholarly teaching you can Google, but this is the meaning that we adopt for our framework. Committed to using a teaching approach informed by sound pedagogical principles, theories, research, and evidence-based practices in education. Whatever that we do in the classroom must be based or guided by a proper theory, by a proper learning principles. And we should understand that, and we should be aware. If you use problem-based learning, what is the theory behind it? If you use scenario-based learning, if you use whatever new innovation in the classroom, what is the pedagogical or andragogical principles underpin that particular method or strategy? Whatever assessment that you choose for your course, for the assessment part, what is the pedagogical principles behind it? So this is what we call scholarly teaching, meaning that we teach guided by a proper research-based or evidence-based, that distinct work. Okay, that is scholarly teaching. And many topics in TLC's program is basically focusing on this part. So that's why it's very, very important. please come to the LC program because you want to learn more about how to teach using a proper scholarly technique, which is based on what work and what does not work. Evidence-based practices. Okay. Number 2 is students' learning experience. If we want to give the best memorable learning experience for our students, we must have this competency. The competency to give the best learning experience for our student. And this is basically committed to helping students learn and optimize the student experience, as well as promoting student success by creating engaging and supportive learning environment. One of the topics that I'm going to share in the coming weeks is about student engagement, student facilitation, learning facilitation. So please make a point, find time to come, or if you're not able to make it, listen to the recording. Yeah. Curriculum design and management. This become also more and more important, especially with the OBE and so on. Currently, I think OBE, most universities are doing just to comply, call for compliance. But I think the next level would be to really understand, implement, and appreciate. The next level will be more creative now on how to achieve the learning outcome by doing, not just based on what is prescribed to us, but beyond that. So committed to designing and implementing an effective and efficient curriculum in their field of expertise. Number 4 is about professionalism. I'm going to talk about professionalism again, expand on it because it's such a very important aspect. And of course, ethics. Committed to maintaining the highest standards of professionalism and abiding by ethical principles in all professional activities. Number 5 is about scholarship. Committed to the pursuit of excellence in teaching and learning through the integration of research, theory, and best practice. So when you reach this level, we can say that the highest level that everyone should strive for, should strive to achieve. So this is where you will be recognized as someone, in someone that is known for his expertise in problem-based learning, for his expertise in engineering education. And then this person now start to share, start to conduct webinar, workshops, start to share resources on the social media, start to do action research on his or her innovation and publish in the journal, sharing the best practices. This person now, when the person reach this level of scholarship, the person does not confine him or herself in the physical boundary of the classroom. Is now already stretch the boundary, step out from the physical boundary of the classroom. Basically, this person now goes global. So that's the level of scholarship. And of course, this person now also can lead. So academic leadership, committed to demonstrating visionary and proactive leadership in teaching. Become thought leaders. Yeah, become so-called thought leaders. And okay, so let me just continue. Expand a little bit on the scholarly teaching. Okay, in scholarly teaching, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas or 6 domains. First, understanding learning and adult learners. So I see the TLC program for this year, there are a few topics on understanding learning and adult learners. Very, very important. First and foremost, we need to understand about learning, understand our students. They are adult. So therefore, we need to understand about adult learners, learn about adult learning principles, and so on. Then instructional or learning design, instructional design or learning design and delivery. There are many models of instructional design. Which model we can use in this situation, this context, and how do we deliver that as a subject matter expert? Learning facilitation. This is one area that is usually less given less attention, but actually very, very, very important. extremely important. Yeah. Assessment and evaluation, over the years, there has been one area that is very lacking. Okay. But now I think more and more people realize. So now we have more program on assessment and evaluation. And I think we are going to bring more experts from outside now to share with us on assessment and evaluation. So don't miss that. High impact educational practices or HIPs and innovative teaching. And finally, instructional what do you call it? Instructional leadership. Yeah. Instructional content creation. This is all about content creation. I think Dr. Puan Malindayu is doing well, helping educators to train people to create content. Yeah, that's very good. Carry on. So that's scholarly teaching, and of course, these are details, the description of the scholarly teaching. It involves ability to understand how people learn, how to design and deliver instruction, and this requires a deep understanding of adult learning theory, adult learning principle, including the factors that influence adult learning and different approaches to learning that are effective for adult learners. Second one, instructional learning design and delivery. It involves creating effective and engaging instructional material and lessons and delivering those lessons to support student learning and understanding. This requires a deep understanding of not only the subject matter, but the pedagogy aspect and the principles of effective instruction and the ability to design and develop instructional materials aligned with student needs and abilities. This part alone, there are so many things we need to know. So we can have several topics just to zoom in on this one. Yeah, very critical. The third one is learning facilitation. I mentioned earlier it's extremely important because we want the students to be self-directed and self-regulated learners. And now the lecturer or the teacher takes a facilitator role. So this is the ability of a teacher to create an environment in which students can actively engage in their own learning. This includes designing and implementing teaching strategies, promoting critical thinking, problem solving, and student collaboration. It also involves providing opportunities for students to apply what they have learned through hands-on activities, project, and discussion. High impact educational practices. You can actually download the PDF document, I think from the website. You just Google high impact educational practices. You can download from KPT website. There's one very good documents prepared by Magnetic, yeah, on behalf of KPT. High impact education practices refers to research-based teaching practices. So now, if you use any of these high impact education practices in your classroom, you can be sure that you are doing scholarly teaching. Because why? Because the methods have been proven to work by research. So evidence-based or research-based. So I don't want to elaborate more on this because we're going to have separate topic on this one. Yeah. Instructional content creation. So I think subject matter expert now should also be able to create their own content, mostly nowadays in the form of digital content. They should be able to create self-instructional material. They should be able to create short video. They should be able to create a podcast and so on. So this is all about content creation. There's another thing called content curation as well. So all of us should have some skill of doing this without depending on technical people to do it for us. And finally, in terms of the scholarly teaching, assessment and evaluation, because we want to make sure the constructive alignment. So you must be able to do a proper, effective assessment and evaluation, involve designing and implementing effective assessment and evaluation strategies that measure student learning and inform instruction. This requires a deep understanding of assessment and evaluation theories, practices, techniques, ability to use various assessment tools and technologies. Also about alternative assessment nowadays. Now we have AI, ChatGPT, and so on. I think now we really need to rethinking of redefine the way we do assessment now. Student learning experience, there are three elements or three domains here. We talk about understanding about student motivation and engagement. We talk about empowering learners and integration of technology. On student motivation and engagement is about, although we are not psychologists, we are not educational psychologists, we are mostly engineers here, okay? But we need to understand a little bit about the educational psychology, understanding about emotion, understanding about motivation, because otherwise we will not be able to help our students to learn. So student motivation and engagement involve creating a learning environment that fosters student motivation and engagement, and designing and delivering instruction that keep students motivated and engaged in the learning process. So we need a deep understanding of student motivation and engagement. I have a topic also to share in the coming weeks on this one, including the factors influencing motivation and effective strategies and techniques for promoting engagement. Number two is empowering learners. If you want to design and give the best learning experience to the students, you must empower them, give them the power to be independent learners. Okay. And the last one here on student learning experience is integration of technology. In fact, on the technology part, we're going to have a separate digital competency framework. This is huge because nowadays technology is no longer an option. This is huge. So it requires a separate competency framework for this one. Okay, so that we can develop our staff with all the competencies needed. Moving forward in the world of VUCA, moving forward in the industry 4.0 or 4IR, digital is no longer an option, especially with AI is advancing very, very quickly now. So we want all Unit 10 lecturers or academics to be smart digital educators. Okay. And the last two is curriculum design and management. There's some description of that. I think I want to save some time, and professionalism as well, which I'm going to, basically on curriculum, I'm going to have another session with all of you to talk about how do we now should rethink about curriculum design, and also on professionalism. Each one of these, I will expand into separate topics so that we can dive in more details. Yeah. And of course, the scholarship. Yeah. Scholarship committed to the pursuit of excellence in teaching and learning through integration of research, theory, and best practices. And finally, academic leadership, committed to demonstrating visionary and proactive leadership in teaching, research, and service to the academic community, inspiring and guiding students and colleagues towards academic excellence. And finally, if we understand about this competency framework for teaching excellence, and we understand what does it take for us in terms of competencies, and strive for excellence, and what does excellence means? In other words, when you are recognized as a scholar, and it reflects in the behavior, this is what we will show and demonstrate. People will see you as someone who is always energetic, enthusiastic, inspiring, exciting, always thought-provoking, and persistent in what you do. So, call to action to everyone here. Please look at the teaching framework competency framework for teaching excellence. I think later on probably TLC will document this properly and make it available to everyone. And just visualize in your mind now. Usually that's what I do. I want to become this. Someone like Walter Lewin here, professor of physics, retired from MIT a long time ago. And he wrote a book because he's so much in love with his subject, physics. He wrote a book for the love of physics, from the end of the rainbow to the edge of time, a journey through the wonders of physics. Will you or would you write a book for your subject matter that you really love? Something like what Walter Lewin has done, and demonstrate this kind of behavior that everyone will recognize you or describe you as a person that is always like this, like this, like this. Yeah. Competency, as I mentioned just now, I'm going to talk about this, but this work in progress with the LC. We are going to come up with competency framework for digital educators soon. So I think how do we realize or how do we implement this one? The competency framework for teaching excellence. So this is where DLC and TLC comes in. And I hope everyone here should give them the support. How? Just come to the program, spend your time seriously, listen, interact, give feedback, and then after that, apply whatever that you have learned immediately in your classroom. And this is what we call professional development. Some people call it training. There's a difference, slightly different. Training is operational. You know, you come here to train for something, and then it teaches people how to be competent at their job. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but professional development is more strategic. We are looking far ahead. Far ahead. Training is basically just in time, for example, or just in case, just in time. But professional development, we are looking at the big picture. It's more strategic. It's all about, remember, professional growth. You want to be professional. You want professional is someone that is has high value. So what's your value? So the learning that happens at this level is often conceptual rather than operational. Operational is more day-to-day, but conceptual is more like a long-term, more holistic view. Training gets people to be compliant. Just comply. For example, we do OBE, we comply with this and that. But professional development gets them committed because you understand the value. So if you understand the value of listening to me on 2 hours on competency framework, you would want to focus, you would want to learn something and then apply. And perhaps you want to listen again for the recording, or then after that you want to read more, because now you are committed for your own, not only personal development, but professional development. Why? Because when you become really professional educators, you will give the best for Unit 10 and for the students. Training is more short-term, immediate needs, here and now, just in time, whereas professional development more focusing on the long-term, expected to bear fruit over a long period of time. So it's a long game. It's a long haul. It's not something that we can do overnight. We have to do it consistently. So now when TLC share, I will share the program shortly. TLC share the program for the whole year. You might want to put it in your calendar already and make a point to attend and show your commitment, okay, to the program. So what's next? So I hope the competency framework that I've shared with you just now will be kind of gazetted, endorsed, and it become a document, an official document for reference for the Unit 10 academics. So we will have a so-called a proper professional standard, which we can use for many things. And I think TLC is doing a good job to so-called redesign the professional development program by mapping the outcome of each program to the competency framework to achieve professional standard. So these are some of the key takeaways. Understanding the competency framework for teaching excellence and its significance in promoting effective teaching practices. increase awareness of the importance of teaching excellence and its impact on student success and opportunity to engage in discussion with peers on this topic. And before I quickly share for a few minutes how the teaching framework looks like in the form of Google Sheet, you might want to take this picture of this slide or screenshot this slide, because you can download the whole set of PowerPoint using this link here. So everyone, if you want to take a picture or a screenshot before I move on, I want to spend about 2-3 minutes to just to show you the still in the form of spreadsheet very quickly. Then we can do Q&A. Okay, dah okay ya semua ya? Dapat ya? Okay. Mungkin Dr. Zulman pun boleh share dalam chat box. Okay, very quickly, I just want to share. This is still in a Google Sheet form, work in progress. I work together dengan TLC ya. So can see here scholarly teaching. The first competency, scholarly teaching. Then we have student learning experience, curriculum design, professionalism and ethics, scholarship and academic leadership. So for each competency, just now scholarly teaching we have 6.
Prof,
yeah.
I think you are not sharing the right screen. Kami nampak apa ni je.
Oh ya.
Nampak warna kuning kan?
Oh, kejap ya. I'm a bit confused dengan. Okay, sekejap. Mana dia share? Okay, stop sharing sekejap. Share screen. Okay, nak boleh nampak lah.
Belum.
Oh, processing. Present. Dia sekejap. Dia tengah.
Masih gelap lagi.
Gelap tu lah. Dia masih status dia ni, internet ni. Sekejap ya. Kenapa
Okay.
dia?
Nampak.
Okay, boleh ya?
Nampak.
Google Sheet nampak ya?
Nampak.
Oh, okay. So sorry for the confusion. I'm still getting used to the Microsoft Team ya. Microsoft Team ya. Okay. Saya biasa dengan Webex. Okay, tak apa. Kita kena biasakan ya. Biasakan yang tak biasa. Okay, this one scholarly teaching tadi I mention ya. Kemudian kita ada student learning experience, curriculum design, management and so on. So for each one, katakan scholarly teaching ni kita ada tadi understanding learning, adult learners, sampailah kepada instructional content creation. Kita ada description. Scholarly teaching kita ada descriptionnya. Kemudian bagi setiap satu pun understanding learning kita ada descriptionnya. Kemudian kita ada demonstrable competency. This one remember behavior. If you have become competent, what kind of behavior that it will show. So this is for example, understanding learning and adult learners. This is the description, and these are the behaviors that you should demonstrate once you have acquired that competency. Okay. Now, then for that particular competency, kita tadi demonstrable competency tadi. Kemudian kita ada proficiency level. So we describe level, kita ada 3 level, awareness, proficient, expert. 3 cukup lah, tak banyak pun, ada sampai 5 ya. Pada saya 3 will do. So this is the description. So when you do self-assessment, you will look at, okay, at this level, where are you now? You should be able to do to assess yourself. Okay. Then we have proficiency level, how good you are now. Then performance criteria. So, for example, if you are at this awareness level, these are the performance criteria. If you are at this level, this is the performance criteria. If you are expert level, this is the performance criteria. And this performance criteria, we can take them out to we can come up with our so-called professional standards for scholarly teaching and so on for each of the competency. So this one we have yet to come up with proper. So I think in the end, TLC probably will find ways to document this properly, maybe in the soft copy form, but nicely. Then make it available to all the staff so that now everyone will know. And the management, the top management is committed to support this teaching framework and use this teaching framework, competency framework for teaching excellence as an instrument, let's say for yearly or annual appraisal, maybe as an instrument to for even for career path progress, promotion, recognition award, for example, best teaching awards, which I think Unit 10 has now, but maybe now we want to look at in a more holistic way, maybe, yeah, because now we have the framework, and everyone now would now understand if I want to get the teaching award at Unit 10 level, at the university level, what does it take? If I now I have intention, I aspire to become the recipient of Anugerah Akademi Negara or National Academy Award in 10 years. What are the competencies that I need to develop from now? It's very clear, right? So that's basically what the competency framework for teaching excellence is about. So with that, I think thank you so much. I pass over to Dr. Zaman, and now I think we can have conversation and discussion, maybe. So I stop sharing the screen.
All right. Terima kasih, Prof. All right. So now kita we Q&A. We open the questions. Any question you can write in chat or you can on your mic and ask the question. Okay, you can ask any question.
How many we have participants?
Now it's 54.
54.
I think the maximum is 69 or 70.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe
I
dari
think
kelas kan.
even if we have 10, to me it's okay. We
Assalamualaikum,
can make a
Prof.
difference in one's life. Ya, silakan.
Puan Mahalinayu.
Okay, Puan.
Sorry, ada banyak soalan pula hari ni.
Yang soalan yang pertama tadi dah terjawab ke belum?
InsyaAllah dah. Saya nampak framework, framework tu lah. It's just that saya tertanya, framework ini target untuk kita exercise bermula bila, dan the evaluation itu dirancangkan secara, is it part of the KPI ke, atau there would be some special evaluation just to see whether at what stage are the lecturers in Unit 10?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Tapi I rasa I'm not in the position actually to answer that questions. Maybe yang ini the Dr. Zulman sendiri ataupun maybe Puan
Zailani.
Puan Zailani ada ke kat dalam ni?
Cuti.
Cuti mungkin Puan Zailani kot yang mungkin Dr. Zulman boleh bagi some ni kot.
Belum, kita belum buat apa-apa lagi tu lah berkaitan dengan evaluation tu dah. Kita sedang mengkaji lagi ke? Yang Prof punya tu.
Yeah, still work in progress kan?
Work in progress.
Kita pun masih lagi tunggu feedback daripada external and so on. Tapi I think is probably the new Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. Perhaps once we have to present this to him also kan, Dr. Zaman?
Yeah, betul.
Then from there, maybe the top management now, once they endorse and approve and use this teaching competency teaching, competency framework for teaching excellence ni. For example, perhaps in the future, for teaching track promotion, for example, like what we have in USM. So we use this framework, and then from there, we create the instrument to assess, to evaluate teaching for those who opt for teaching track promotion for associate professor and professor. And at the faculty level, here at the college COE level, department level, it can be used also. The framework can be used as an instrument for appraisal, annual appraisal performance in terms of teaching. So there are many ways of, as I mentioned earlier, there are many ways how this framework can be used. But while waiting for that, immediately the staff can refer to this framework if it's made available to the staff, especially just from the PowerPoint dulu pun. They look at what are the competencies, and they can now quickly do the assessment, how good they are or where they are in this. So they can start to do a so-called SWOT of your own teaching. Yeah? Oh, by the way, that's interesting thing. Maybe I probably has anyone here do a personal SWOT? Actually, is very seldom though. Maybe I need to, maybe I can have another talk on this one. Kita buat personal SWOT, kita kata muhasabah lah, reflection. Tapi kalau if you want to do it more systematically, why not do a personal SWOT? And if you are interested, I can have another session how to do a personal SWOT in the context of being an academic. Not only focusing on research, not only focusing on teaching, but also research and other things. And it's interesting. It's interesting how from the personal SWOT, I hope everyone knows kan, SWOT analysis, then you will see, whoa, where I am now, I have some strength, I have more weaknesses, but I know these weaknesses can be turned into strength. Then when you look at the opportunities with quadrant, wow, there are so many opportunities, but I have not leveraged the opportunities. And what are the threats? Yeah. So itulah immediately you can start doing something already lah. Puan Melinda, okay?
Good idea tu,
Okay, Prof, insyaAllah.
Ya, ada lagi?
Ada lagi soalan? Kita ada berbaki 5 minit lagi.
Tuan Haji Rosli adakah? Tuan Haji Rosli, Puan Melinda.
Oh, saya kat office, dia hari ni work from home.
Oh, dia itu Tuan Haji Rosli kata dia nak join ni, dia looking forward to join.
Ya. InsyaAllah dia ada join dari rumah. Tapi saya ada kelas petang, so saya masuk office.
Ada soalan ke? Ni saya dah sebut nama ni, kena tanya soalan lah.
I should have stayed home with him lah. Boleh tolong jawabkan?
Ada, Prof.
Ada juga. Dia kata ada.
Mana dia? Nama tak nampak.
Dia tersembunyi, Prof.
Tersembunyi.
So, ada soalan ke?
Tak ada, Prof. Tak ada. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Alhamdulillah.
Saya dah nampak nama dah.
InsyaAllah boleh faham. Semua orang boleh faham ni.
InsyaAllah.
So TLC dia akan sebab Prof punya webinar ni akan kita buat almost every week, satu bulan tu 2 kali almost lah. So maknanya
nanti sampai bosan lah you tengok muka saya.
Maknanya you akan nampak lagi ni lah, dia akan lagi lebih detail lah.
Tapi saya harap in the coming weeks, I'll be sharing at least twice a month. The topics that I choose, I think, not only relevant, but very, very important.
Yeah.
And actually there is a lot more than I can share daripada apa ni. Tapi those that I choose are the really very, very important lah. So I hope still try to make a point, try to find time. Kalau tak dapat because ada kelas dan sebagainya, watch the recording.
Yeah.
So much that we can do lah. Yeah.
Okay. So kalau tak ada soalan lagi tu dekat chat.
Tu Tuan Jurusri tu.
InsyaAllah minggu depan jumpa bro.
Ya, okay.
Minggu depan kita ada pergi Putrajaya insyaAllah.
Okay, Prof, Dr. Chua ni dia tanya ni. Hi Prof, great sharing, and I really believe that it is a high time that all IHL should have this competency framework installed and applied. Is there any chance MOHI will come out its own competency framework and all university will have to follow?
Okay. What from what I heard lah. At the KPT level, they have yet to establish so-called competency framework, but I think UUM is working, helping KPT. I think they are looking into it lah. They are looking into it, and UUM is helping. They have not contacted me to to help, but it is, yeah. To answer that question, I think KPT is looking into it. Whether it will be made compulsory, I don't think so, because university has autonomy, but they will not prescribe it. But just like any other things, they say, okay, here is the competency framework, and it's up to the university to adopt and adapt because each university probably will have their own DNA. So the framework is there, so maybe they can adapt suitable for that particular university. So it's coming, I think, for the public university especially. But we don't have to wait for that. So let's be proactive. So I think if the top management endorse this framework, Uniten is leading the way.
Okay, Dr. Chua boleh on mic kalau tak selesai, tak menjawab.
Boleh unmute.
Dr. Chua?
Yeah, by the way, Dr. Chua.
Thank you so much. It is really a good sharing, and then this is one thing that I noticed that Malaysian universities are really lacking in these competencies. Because I saw in many of the UK universities, they have something called the Higher Education Academy, and then all the educators, they must have a fellowship where there's a lot of competencies being required by all the academics. So that's why I was asking, will we have a centralized, something like a centralized, where the uni have to, academicians have to really go and have a look and see they are achieving this one. But it is really a good move.
Yes.
We really need this.
Yeah, Dr. Chua, you mentioned about UK universities. If you Google, you will find that actually UK universities already they have adopted the framework for teaching excellence.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, framework of teaching excellence many years ago. Initially, there was resistance by university to be, because they later on actually they come up like they are rating or ranking the universities based on the teaching excellence. So they were resistant. But after a few years, they realized by having the framework, they now have the instrument or the means to systematically measure the teaching excellence of their program by their staff. So it really helps the university actually to put a more systematic professional development program or training program that is guided by the framework. Easy for them also to put allocation for funding for training, because they know what kind of competencies that is lacking, what is their strength, what is their weakness, based on the framework. Now it become I think almost all universities in UK appreciate that, although initially they resisted. In Malaysia, I think the same thing is going to happen once KPT, let's say, introduce this framework. But I think, as I said just now, there is something good. So why not we be proactive? I like to be proactive rather than just reactive. Reactive, we just respond to something that is happen. But proactive, we foresee, we predict, we are not only one step ahead, but 10 steps ahead of others, because we know that we must lead the way. We become the trailblazer. So why not? I think Unit 10 now should look into many things to become trailblazers.
Okay, Prof. Prof, ini luahan lah, Prof.
Thank
Komen
you so
nanti.
much, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Prof. Ni daripada Dr. Yuzaini.
Mhm.
Terima kasih, Prof, for sharing a lot of new knowledge to learn, especially related to IT in teaching. Sometimes feel like overload with IT things. So, what your comment?
Yeah. I have another topic actually, talking about what was the topic? What's the title? Managing digital overload or something like that.
Okay. Ada cara, Prof, kan?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, a topic on apa ya? Personal productivity kot, using digital tools. Ada kan Dr. Zaman? Yeah. So actually, yeah, I understand the issue here. You can feel overload, yeah, with all the new technology, new tools, and sometimes you become overwhelmed. You are not sure which one to use with. So this is where you need guidance. You need guidance, and this is where DLC, TLC comes in. In this case, DLC, perhaps more on digital. So we do sharing. So for example, the next one, perhaps in the coming weeks, one of the topics that I want to share is about managing so-called how to use digital tools more effectively. You don't have to use so many tools because there's hundreds, maybe thousands of digital tools out there.
Yeah.
We have to choose a set of tools and put it in our so-called toolbox. Everyone should have their own toolbox. And what's in the toolbox? Every different person will have different set of tools in their toolbox. My toolbox, perhaps I have more tools than yours. Okay, because my job is to explore. But for you to be able to function effectively and efficiently in terms of digital tools, I would say 5 tools is good enough. What are the 5 tools? You choose.
Yeah. Kita ada guideline nanti lah, Prof, kan?
Yeah.
Okay, so Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Prof, for the webinar. I think selalu banyak ilmu yang kita dapat, dan kita kena digest pelan-pelan lah. So kalau sesiapa yang belum tak dapat hadir penuh tadi, boleh tengok baliklah rakaman, dan nota kita akan bagi nantilah dekat dalam, saya akan masukkan dalam chat nanti. Okay. So with that, thank you, Prof. Thank you everyone. So kita jumpa lagi. Next dia adalah Prof punya adalah hari Selasa depan, 7 bulan 3. A model for future proof learning.
Saya kita tukar lah tu.
Very interesting.
Kita tukar lah tu. Nanti I discuss.
Boleh. Kita tukar.
I think as
ikut
continuation kepada yang ini, I want to talk about the professionalism punya part lah.
Alright. Boleh. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Okay,
Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih semua.
Assalamualaikum. Have a nice day everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Terima kasih, Prof.
I see evaluation, tolong isi evaluation.